Hello, welcome back. Day number 80. So we're closing in. When I initially created the series, I thought I would do about 100 days of these drawings. But I don't plan on stopping drawing after 100 days, so I don't know why I stopped these videos. So let's see how long the series goes. But anyway, regardless of the number of the day, the important thing is that we drew today. So on the time lapse is a short 6.5 minute. It should be about 6.5 minutes in the time lapse. And in total, it was a short drawing, probably only about 25 minutes in real time. So if this is your first time here, my name is Angela Wren, and this is a everyday art series I'm doing where I track my progress and growth as an artist. And right now we're in the middle of what we're calling Anatomy Month. So each week of this month, we're focusing on a different piece of anatomy. And you can probably see based on days 75 through 79 that this week we're working on the legs. And this is the first sketch that I did of the legs that was from a figure reference. So I've either been drawing from anatomy references or from master copies. And so this is the first time that I tried to interpret a leg from a reference myself. And I would say it went moderately okay. I took the same approach that I've been taking on all my figure drawings and any time really I'm drawing from reference and trying to think about anatomy, which is that I first draw in kind of like the gesture or the 2D outline of what I'm drawing. And then what I try and do is build in the anatomy a little bit inside of that. And then based on what I have built in for the anatomy, I'll then see what I can interpret from the reference. So this is kind of this like 3-step process. And I really think about it though in 2 steps. The first is the 2D outline, and then the second is the 3D outline. And in terms of like where I practically start on the page, when I'm drawing the legs, I draw a box for the pelvis, and then I try and do some indications for the leg bones, so the femur and then the tibia and fibula. And so today's drawing went moderately okay for being the first drawing from a figure reference. But there's actually something a little bit more important that I want to talk about today. There are kind of like 3 related topics that I'm going to talk about. The first one is, I've mentioned this before, but it's like, what are the things that make a good drawing session? And for me, there's 3 things when I sit down to draw. The first one is like my physical health. Like, how am I just feeling? Have I had enough water that day? Did I have enough sleep the night before? Am I feeling kind of sick or not? Like, just physically, how am I feeling? The second one, or just to touch on that, for me personally, that actually really does affect the quality of my drawings, just how I feel physically. The second thing is having what I call like this openness, or this like, this lightness of life, which is something that I think is like, an emotional state that you try and capture, or at least I try and capture my artwork. And if you want it to come through in your artwork, you kind of have to have it in person and you have to actually be there. And then separate from that is inspiration. Like, how inspired are you to draw? Just like, do you have that like deep desire to sit down and create art? And I would say out of those 3 things today, I probably have like a half of one. I'm feeling pretty good, not perfect, but feeling pretty good. But unfortunately, I didn't have that much inspiration today, maybe because we've just been doing so many of these leg drawings, and I don't find that the most alluring. And then I don't necessarily feel that like openness and lightness. And I think the reason for that is the next 2 things I want to talk about. The first one is that I'm noticing that I'm kind of at a point in my art practice where I'm unfortunately more focused on getting better technically than I am creating art, so to speak. And just because I'm drawing every day doesn't mean that I'm really making art. I mean, on some level, of course, it is art, right? Everything is art, and all these drawings can be considered art. But the problem is, I'm not really focused on making artistic expression. Instead, what I'm focused on is just trying to improve my technical abilities and my technical skills. And that's important because if you have good technical skills, you can better express yourself and make your artistic expression. But I think right now, this Anatomy Month is kind of causing me to have this like really long period where I'm really just focused on improving myself, improving, and not enough on like focusing on the expression part. So I think how that might materialize is that after this arm week, I'm kind of excited to get through the arm week where we can go back to just kind of like, probably that next week will be 1 week of art where I'm just doing whatever motivates me or inspires me, or just however I can express myself. just to kind of return back to that, back to the roots, like, using those technical things that we learned, but not making that the primary focus of all the drawing sessions, and instead trying to create something kind of aesthetically nice and that I'm interested in. Maybe we'll do some compositional studies for a painting, or start to imagine an idea for a painting, what we could do. And the last thing that I want to talk about that's related to this is that I think that this is kind of causing some burnout, let's say. And I think burnout is a feeling that, if you're really practicing art, honestly, if you're practicing anything on a daily basis, burnout is something that you have to deal with. It's just something you're going to confront. It's a fact of life. And the way through burnout, on one level, is to just keep pushing through it, right? You have to keep drawing every day and just keep going. But the other thing you have to do is actually deal with the burnout and the emotion itself. And generally, burnout is kind of related to stress and how stressed you feel, and not having like this relaxed feeling when you're doing whatever it is you're doing. In this case, we're doing artwork. So just some ideas if you encounter burnout that you might want to think about are things like you could do meditation, you could do working out, physical exercise, you could try something like journaling, or you could even just try talking to people, like expressing the fact that you're burned out. I have the Discord community that you can join. There's a link for it in the description, Studio 35, where you can talk about feeling burned out and just kind of, get some of that empathy and some of that community feeling of artists just talking about this. And these three things can kind of help you push through it a little bit. So I think that's enough of talking for today. Actually, I think I've talked just about as long as the time lapse, so we probably won't have any narration today. But this concludes day number 80 and week 3 of Anatomy Month. We will see each other next week on Monday for the arm anatomy, and hopefully like a little more reinvigorated and ready to having that openness and that lightness for art.